Welcome to We All Scream, another true crime podcast. I'm your host, Lisa, and today we're going to cover the case of Erica Michelle Marie Green. We'll give you a trigger warning. It does involve the death and dismemberment of a child. Sources for today's show are casetext.com as well as the kansascitystar.com. Around 7 p.m., April 28, 2001, two Kansas City, Missouri police officers searched a wooded area near Hibbs Park. They were looking for an elderly man who'd been reported missing, but quickly into their search, they received word over police radio the man had been found. As they turned around and started to make their way out of the woods, they crossed paths with something utterly shocking, a scene even the most seasoned of officers would find disturbing. It was the new decapitated body of a little girl the Kansas City community would come to know as Precious Stowe. Police searched the wooded area where she was found with specially trained canines, attempting to find any evidence. But as the night turned into the early hours of Sunday morning, the lead investigator ended the search, hoping to have better luck in the daylight. The search resumed at 7 a.m., but unfortunately her head wasn't found, or really any evidence for that matter. The Jackson County Medical Examiner estimated the girl's age to be between 3 and 6 years old. She was African American, about 3 feet tall, and weighed around 41 pounds. Authorities believe she had been in the woods for about a day. With her head nowhere to be found, the only clue to her identity was a brown, crescent-shaped birthmark on the front of her left shoulder. Investigators were initially confident confirming the identity of the girl would be an open and shut case. Surely her parents would be frantically looking for their missing child, but as a few days passed and no one came forward, their hope of easily discovering her identity grew dim. Tuesday morning, 3 days after the gruesome discovery of Precious Stowe's decapitated body, an Army veteran took off into the woods in an attempt to find the little girl's head. While serving nearly 15 years in the Army, he had been trained to search. Friends urged him to volunteer his expertise. He was hesitant at first, but after thinking about it, decided to go. After 3.5 hours of searching, he stopped to take a smoke break. That's when the sound of swarming insects caught his attention. 3 feet away, wedged in between an old tire and a rock, was a doubled up black plastic trash bag secured with 2 knots. He tapped the bag with his cane, felt something kind of hard, and then traced the tip of it along the object inside. To him, it felt like a face. He led officers to the trash bag, and it was confirmed that her head had been found. That same afternoon, 67 police recruits scored through 6 square blocks of woods and went door to door in the Kansas City neighborhood, attempting to gather any type of clues, any evidence. Police sprayed the wooded area with a fluorescent chemical to detect traces of blood, but nothing came up. Images of the head were emailed to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children in Washington, D.C., where reconstruction experts digitally created a composite sketch of Precious Stowe. The image included another clue that could help lead to her identity. Her left front tooth had been chipped. When the sketch hit the evening news, calls poured in. One woman believed she used to babysit the girl and provided police with the mother's contact information. Police were able to locate the mother and the girl. They were both alive and well. Another woman thought the girl might be a neighborhood girl she hadn't seen in a week. The girl was located, and it turned out she had just been grounded. Then, a promising lead came in from police in Pine Bluff, Arkansas. A suspect in a Kansas City murder had committed suicide when confronted by Pine Bluff police on April 29th, just one day after police had found Precious Stowe's headless body. The suspect lived just blocks away from Hibbs Park. An employee at Pine Bluff's Juvenile Justice Center told police she overheard the 16-year-old girl who had traveled with the suspect tell someone, quote, "We dumped a body," unquote. The 16-year-old denied making the statement, but mentioned how upset the suspect was about the news reports of the body of a woman being found in the trunk of one of his cars. The suspect was driving a rental car at the time of his death, and in the trunk, hair and a hunting knife with a 6-inch blade partly covered in a reddish-brown substance was found. The knife was tested by Kansas City Police Crime Lab, and whatever was on the knife was not blood. The suspect couldn't be linked to Precious Stowe's case. A woman approached police near 59th and Kensington, which is near Hibbs Park, and told them the crescent-shaped birthmark reminded her of a 6-month-old she used to care for. She had the infant's birth certificate and footprints for some reason, but after a formal interview and comparing the prints to Precious Stowe's footprints, investigators ruled out that lead. Another lead came in from Tacoma, Washington. 2-year-old Tika Lewis was abducted from a bowling alley in January of 2001. However, DNA tests concluded they were not a match. To this day, Tika has not been found. The trash bag that contained Precious Doe's head was sent to Royal Canadian Mounted Police to see if fingerprints could be found using a specialized device. Unfortunately, no prints were found. A bust, which is a sculpted representation of the upper part of a human body, was created by sculptor Frank Bender. He used the skull and pictures of the little girl's remains to help him reconstruct the likeness of her face. After the bust was revealed, more than 80 phone calls came in, including one that perked investigators' ears regarding a missing girl from Miami, Florida. While Ryla Wilson was not reported missing until April of 2002, nearly a year after Precious Doe was found, she had actually been missing for 15 months. Ryla had been staying with her grandmother after her mother lost custody of her. Ryla's grandmother told police the Department of Children and Families took Ryla, then 4 years old, for an evaluation in January of 2001, but she never returned home. The grandmother stated she'd made multiple calls and visits to the agency to check on Ryla over those 15 months and even inquired about adopting the girl. However, the agency denies taking Ryla from the home, not even for an evaluation. They also told police they had no records of the grandmother's calls or visits inquiring about Ryla. Ryla's caseworker resigned after it was discovered she had falsely documented in-home visits that actually didn't happen, involving another case. Regarding Ryla, her caseworker's notes and documentation ended in January of 2001, when the agency supposedly had taken Ryla for an evaluation. The agency assumes no home visits were actually being made to check in on Ryla after that point. While Ryla and Precious Doe's fingerprints were not a match, police didn't give up hope. Ryla's mother was located and a DNA sample was obtained. Like all of the other leads before, this one didn't pan out. The DNA profile wasn't a match. After outcries from the Kansas City community, Precious Doe was finally released from the Jackson County Medical Examiner's custody and laid to rest at Memorial Park Cemetery 7 months after the discovery of her body. Her headstone read, Precious Doe, found April 28, 2001, quote, please help keep Precious Doe's memory alive, unquote. Another lead came in regarding a 7-year-old girl from Richmond, Virginia, Brittany Renee Williams. Brittany lived in a group foster home. The woman running the home stated she allowed 2 women to take Brittany to California in August of 2000. The woman said she had no way of getting in touch with the woman that took Brittany. Investigators were able to get in contact with the 2 women, and they denied taking the girl. Maternal relatives of Brittany were located, but their DNA profiles didn't match Precious Doe's either. A second composite sketch was created using crime scene and morgue photos. Investigators hoped the new image would bring in leads, but while some leads came in, none led to Precious Doe's identity. In July of 2003, Precious Doe's remains were exhumed. An expert from Louisiana needed the skull to produce yet another bust of the girl. The expert believed Precious to be closer to 3 years old and thinks her tooth was actually chipped near the time of her death. A tip from Oklahoma was called in on Friday, April 29, 2005, after seeing an ad showing 2 depictions of Precious Doe that Kansas City community activist Alonzo Washington placed in the newspaper, the Kansas City Call. When a detective told the tipster, Thurman McIntosh, they would call him back on Monday, he reached out to Alonzo. This wasn't the first time Thurman had reached out to the Kansas City Police Department regarding the Precious Doe case. In later interviews, he claimed to have reached out to the department 40 to 50 times. The department has records of 3 calls from Thurman. His first call was placed on July 13, 2004. While detectives looked into the tip, they stated the information given at the time was vague. They believed they had located all of the children of the mother Thurman was concerned about. The second call came on September 4, 2004. Thurman told the detective his grandson's wife claimed she was Precious Doe's mother, and her husband, Thurman's grandson, had killed her. The detective thought he had already accounted for all of the children, and since Thurman told the detectives the girl was 1 year old when she was killed, it didn't match the age range of Precious Doe. Thurman later stated he told the detective the last time he saw the girl was when she was 1 year old. Alonzo urged Thurman to call Kansas City Police again. He did, and this time investigators took him seriously because this time Thurman had information only the killer could have known. Kansas City detectives drove to Oklahoma and spoke to Thurman on May 4, 2005. He told detectives he wanted people to know the truth about Precious Doe before he died. He then revealed Precious Doe's real name, Erica Green. Detectives proceeded to the Muskogee Police Department, where Michelle Johnson and Harold Johnson were being held on unrelated charges. Both confessed to detectives what happened that terrible night in Kansas City, Missouri. First, Michelle, who was Erica's mother, then Harold, who was Michelle's boyfriend at the time of Erica's death. While their stories slightly differed, one thing was clear. They were both responsible for the little girl's untimely passing. After Erica's death, Harrell and Michelle would go on to marry on April 2nd, 2002, less than a month short of the first anniversary of Erica's death. Erica Michelle Marie Green was born May 15th, 1997 in Oklahoma, while Michelle was serving prison time for larceny. Procedures at that time didn't require hospitals or prisons to notify the Division of Family Services when an incarcerated woman gave birth, as long as they were able to find someone to help take care of their infant when they were born. In Erica's case, this is completely frustrating due to the fact that Michelle's other 4 children had been taken from her and were actively being monitored by the Children's Division. When Erica was born, Michelle reached out to a family friend, Betty Brown, who agreed to take care of Erica for the extent of Michelle's incarceration. Betty was no stranger to taking in children. She had been a foster mother, and estimated hundreds of children had come and gone over the years. Betty arrived at the hospital, producing her driver's license and a Sam's Club card to confirm her identity, then signed a 1-page document that stated Michelle retained legal custody of Erica. Which is just crazy that you can just sign a 1-page document, produce 2 forms of ID, a Sam's Club card for that matter, and you can take home a whole infant with you without a background check or without the Division of Family Services knowledge. But anyway, Erica called Betty Granny and continued to live with her even after her mother was released from prison. Michelle would periodically visit to check in on Erica, but never took her from Betty's home to live with her, as was originally planned. Betty said Erica was a smart child who loved Teletubbies, dresses, and wasn't afraid to march on stage at church to join the older kids while they were singing worship songs. She loved Erica like her own daughter and had mentioned she'd like to adopt her to Michelle. But unfortunately, Erica would be uprooted from the only home she had ever known. In early April of 2001, Michelle told Betty she wanted to take Erica with her for a few days to attend a family reunion. Betty packed a couple of outfits and said her goodbyes to Erica, unaware it would be the last time she would ever see her. At the time Michelle picked up Erica from Betty's, she and Harold, as well as her 6-month-old baby they had together, were living in Kansas City, Missouri with Harold's cousin. They had told family they were looking for jobs in Kansas City because it was hard to find work in Oklahoma with their criminal backgrounds. Harrell had served time for assault with a deadly weapon and possession of a sawed-off shotgun. Later, Harrell's cousin would say they were staying in Kansas City to hide from Oklahoma police due to both having active warrants. One night, the family arrived home late in the evening. Harrell had been drinking all day and was high on PCP. At some point, Michelle went to the back room and saw Erica and Harold both standing in the bedroom. Michelle told Erica to go to bed, then left the room to take a bath. During this time, Harold became angry with Erica because she wouldn't go to sleep. Michelle had came back into the bedroom after her bath and noticed Erica was out of bed again. She asked Harold why Erica was standing up, and he replied he had told her to stand up. Michelle then said something to Harrell about Erica being her kid, so she controlled her, then pointed to their child that Harrell fathered and reminded him that's his kid, which only escalated the situation. Michelle then told Erica to lie down. Michelle was sitting on the bed with Erica, standing a few feet away from her, and Harrell was standing behind Erica when Harrell raised his foot and kicked Erica in her head. She then collapsed to the floor, losing consciousness. Michelle and Harrell told detectives she was kicked once, but an autopsy revealed Erica suffered multiple injuries to her head, including multiple oval and slit-like defects on her scalp and face. The frontal scalp, top of the head, back of the head, and the right temporal area there was hemorrhaging, as well as areas of injury from blunt impact. While the skull was not fractured, inside the skull showed a small amount of subdural hematoma and in large areas subarachnoid hemorrhaging. There were areas of impact on multiple surfaces, indicating more than one impact from a kick, Harold and Michelle described to detectives. Michelle carried Erica to the bathroom and tried to revive her in cold bath water. Her eyes were rolled back in her head and she didn't move. She took her back to the bedroom after 10 or 15 minutes and laid her on the floor where she remained unconscious and unresponsive. It was at this time they realized Erica needed medical attention. They both chose not to call an ambulance or seek any type of medical treatment for the girl because they both had active warrants and didn't want to go to jail. So Erica was left for 10 to 14 hours to die on the floor. During Harrell's trial, a pediatric neurosurgeon testified that since she survived at least 10 hours after being injured, she would have had a good chance of surviving had she had medical treatment. Ultimately, the decision to not seek medical treatment intervention is what caused Erica's death. Michelle and Harrell waited until dark before taking Erica's body out through a window of the house so that Harrell's cousin wouldn't notice. They headed to a wooded area near the house and brought hedge clippers with them. Harrell then took off Erica's clothing and handed the clothes to Michelle before he cut off Erica's head with a pair of hedge clippers. He then put the head inside 2 garbage bags he'd found along the way and secured it with 2 knots. They left Erica's body in the woods and threw the bag containing her head into a nearby church's dumpster. Michelle feared people at the church would smell the decomposing head and find it, so they removed the head from the dumpster and threw it into the wooded area where they had left Erica's body. When Harrell's cousin asked about Erica the next day, the couple told her Betty Brown had picked her up and taken her back to Oklahoma. Michelle and Harrell would live in various places over the next 4 years. When family and friends asked about Erica, they would say she was living with Betty at times, or other times they would say she was with some other family member. Since her older 4 children had been living with their foster parents and family members throughout the years, they didn't really have a reason to question Michelle further or look into it. But Thurman, Harrell's grandfather, noticed something was off during the time the couple lived with him. While Harrell was serving time, he would write Michelle letters suggesting he regretted a previous action. When he got out of prison, they would fight. Michelle would threaten Harrell, saying she would go to the police, and other times she would tell him that she could get him life in prison. Thurman confronted Harrell one day after picking him up from jail, after he was released for an assault charge. He told him he believed Erica was Precious Stowe. Harrell eventually broke down and told him the death was an accident. Thurman knew he had to do the right thing. In August of 2005, Erica was finally laid in her final resting place. This time her gravestone read, Erica Michelle Marie Green, May 15th, 1997 to April 28th, 2001. Our angel, Precious Stowe, we love you. Harrell and Michelle were both originally charged with second-degree murder and endangering the welfare of a child. The grand jury upgraded Harrell's second-degree murder charge to first-degree murder because he showed deliberation by kicking Erica and then refusing to seek medical treatment for the girl. In December of 2005, while Harrell was serving a 5-year sentence for beating a man with an axe handle, the death penalty was sought for his crimes against Erica, but later dropped. Michelle was offered a plea deal if she would testify against her husband. When Harrell caught wind of this, he begged her not to take the deal and asked her to change her story through letters he mailed to her. One letter read, quote, Michelle, we got to do what we got to do. Together as one. We can beat this case, and that's real talk. You just got to do everything I asked you to do and listen to me, unquote. Another letter urged her to fire her attorney and take her case to trial. Quote, please do it, my love. Boo. If they don't have the evidence, then they can't get no conviction at all. That's why they keep coming at you with all those pleas, because they know that if you go to trial, you'll beat the case. They know it. You got to put 2 and 2 together, unquote. He then goes on to explain their new stories. He had ran into a friend named Mike while buying cigarettes. They started talking. Turned out Mike was headed back to Oklahoma, so he asked him if he could take Erica to a family friend in Muskogee. Mike agreed, and Harrell paid him $35. They put Erica in the car with Mike and never saw her again. He advises Michelle, quote, don't answer any questions you don't know. Send them to me. Look, that's something you need to keep in mind, because this is our way out of town, unquote. In September of 2007, Michelle took the plea deal and pled guilty to felony second-degree murder, endangering the welfare of a child, abandonment of a corpse, and tampering with physical evidence. The prosecutors would recommend 25 years for her plea and testimony in her husband's upcoming trial. Harrell's tone in the letters to Michelle then changed. Quote, And now I'm going to make sure you get ran over personally. Tell them how you used to beat and leave Erica in that room with no TV, no nothing for hours while you smoked crack. They're going to know what you did. Make it last, because your time on this earth is real short. You can believe that. It's on site." Unquote. In October of 2008, jurors deliberated for about 3 hours before finding Harrell guilty of first-degree murder, endangering the welfare of a child, and abuse of a child resulting in death. He received a sentence of life without parole plus 29 years. Michelle received 25 years. Harrell appealed the first-degree murder conviction and lost in 2010. Michelle and Harrell divorced in 2012. Both are still incarcerated. When Erica was born, both her mother and father were incarcerated at the time. Larry Green, her father, believes had the Oklahoma Department of Corrections and or OU Medical Center notified the Department of Human Services of Erica's birth while her mother was incarcerated in prison, she might still be alive today. Prior to Erica's birth, Michelle was no stranger to the child welfare agencies in Illinois and Oklahoma. In Illinois, Child Protective Services found 2 confirmed reports of child abuse and neglect in 1992. In the state of Illinois, found Michelle had failed to protect 2 of her children from physical abuse. In 1993, the state of Illinois confirmed Michelle gave birth to a baby testing positive for cocaine. Michelle's 3 children in Illinois were no longer in her custody when she moved to Oklahoma in 1995, where she had her 4th baby, who also tested positive for cocaine. While Michelle was far along in her pregnancy with Erica, her 4th child was removed from her custody and her parental rights were eventually terminated. The Division of Human Services was aware of Michelle's pregnancy with Erica and that she was still using drugs. They were also aware Michelle had been convicted of shoplifting and would be incarcerated at the DOC. Larry believes the Department of Human Services knew or should have known he was also incarcerated and or unable to care for Erica. Because of those factors, he believes the Department of Human Services knew or should have known Erica fit the definition of a deprived child under Oklahoma law, because both parents were in DOC custody, unable to care for the child when she was born, and no guardianship was in place. While Erica was in the care of Betty Brown, the Division of Human Services received a referral that Michelle was using drugs and subjecting Erica to child abuse and or neglect while she would visit Erica at Betty's. When the Division of Human Services visited Betty's home, they did not see any cause for concern. Michelle would only visit Erica sporadically, and Michelle did not live with Erica. But Michelle still held legal custody of Erica and was not being monitored by the Division of Family Services, or DHS, even after losing custody of her other 4 children. When it was all said and done, the parties settled on an unspecified payment to Larry and a new law to be established in Oklahoma called Erica's Rule. It requires the DOC to notify DHS, Division of Human Services, anytime a baby is born to a prisoner. Harrell's cousin, who they had stayed with in Kansas City, would later say she knew Erica was being abused in the days leading up to her death, but she said it wasn't her place to get involved. I couldn't disagree more. It was absolutely her place to get involved. Erica was a little girl who could not seek help for herself. As an adult, it is 100% your place to get involved. Many things could have been done differently to help protect Erica. Unfortunately, a beautiful, innocent 3-year-old child's life was taken way too soon by the very people who should have loved and protected her. If you ever suspect a child is being neglected or abused, please contact your local authorities or call the National Child Abuse Hotline at 1-800-4-A-CHILD. That's 1-800-422-4453. And that is the story of Erica Michelle Green.